y'all, how's it going? Welcome back to summer camp at home. My name is Alexa. I'm gonna hang tight here for just a couple minutes, let some of our friends join us. So hang tight, let me know if you're joining me at this point in the comments. One word to describe your week so far. But we're just gonna hang tight, wait for some of our friends to hop on and join us. Cool. While you are waiting, a couple things that you're gonna need today for this craft. You'll need some scissors. I have some very tiny, and I'm gonna have to show you a couple ways, very tiny string. So scissors, tiny string, yarn. Find some of your favorite colors for this one because you can hang it in your bedroom, in your living room, wherever you want to, but it's a pretty cool thing to hang up. So some yarn, some tiny string, some scissors, and a dowel rod. I'm also going to show you a quick option with these tiny little rings, or you can do these in much larger rings, but either way, a yarn craft that you can do and use and hang at home. Cool. So you've got your scissors, tiny string, yarn, dowel rod, and then these little metal rings if you have them. And then the last thing you're going to need is a book. So the book can be any size. I've got a bigger book here and a smaller book here. You can kind of see, there we go, for size reference. It's going to help you make some larger and smaller tassels, which will go into your craft. I like this small book. You're going to see the different size tassels that you make with the different books, but this one feels like a good one for the size tassel that I'm looking for on my craft today. These are, I made a couple samples ahead of time so that you could see the various stages of the product, of what you're making overall. And these are what the tassels look like. So they're little things. If this were closer to Halloween, you could put some eyeballs on these and do white ones and make them ghosts. So know that you can use these however you want to. You can string them up to one strand and make a little tassel garland. You can make these really long and make them a bookmark, or you can make tiny ones and make a keychain. You have a lot of options for these, but let's go ahead and get started. Cool. So I've got my book, I've got my scissors nearby. What I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna grab some green string so that it's nice and easy to see. So I'm gonna grab first about a 10 to 12 inch length of yarn, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut that and set it in front of me. And that's gonna hang tight for just a minute. So go ahead and cut it, leave it. The next thing you're gonna wanna do is cut probably like a 6 to 8 inch bit of yarn, and you're also going to cut that and bring that one closer to you. So I have a nice stool in front of me, so I'm going to go ahead and set it down so that the longer one's a little bit further away, the shorter one's a little bit closer. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and set the scissors where I know I can find them again. I know I can set them all over the place, so it's nice to keep them handy and close and at a safe location. So we're gonna go ahead, this is where you're gonna want your book and you're gonna want your yarn. I leave my yarn nice and trailing at a space where it can just kind of unwind on its own. And what I'm gonna do is I have the binding side up and the open side down. I'm gonna go ahead and start by placing the end of the string towards the open side, and I'm gonna wind it around the book. So I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna bring it to a slightly easier location for me to wind it, but I'm gonna do this probably about 30 to 40 times. So about 10. And it doesn't have to be exact, you're just winding it around so that you get a nice thick tassel. And we're about there. So the more you do these, the more you're gonna recognize how thick it needs to be the tassel that you want it to be. And we're gonna go ahead and again, towards the bottom, we're gonna trim it. So I'm gonna leave a little bit of length on it so that it doesn't run away on me. And then the nice thing about using a book is that your scissors fit nicely in there. Be really careful that you don't damage the book itself. So you're gonna cut really carefully along the open side. So cutting along the open side, cutting that length of yarn that you just wound. All right, so it's no longer here. I'm gonna go ahead and grab it from one side, let it hang, and pull it right off of there. Cool, I'm gonna go ahead and set the book aside. You won't need it again for another minute. So you've got this nice length of yarn. I'm actually gonna bring you a little bit closer and a little overhead so you can see what I'm doing here, all right? Good, so pardon that I have a bunch of yarn on here. I'm gonna move my dowel out of the way. Whoop, really out of the way. So my long piece of yarn is up here, my short piece of yarn is here. So I just moved that even a little bit further out of the way. I now have this nice, big, straight bunch of yarn hairs. So I'm gonna pick them up by the middle, and I'm just gonna rest them right over top, right along. I'm gonna try and find the middle with that short piece of yarn. All right, and then we're gonna go ahead and tie it in a knot, or double knot or triple knot. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie it once, tie it twice. For good measure, let's just tie it one more time. All right, 3 times, and you're gonna trim these later, but let's go ahead and we'll flip it over. I might need to adjust. So the great news here is that you can see mine's a little bit uneven. So I've got one end up, one end down. I'm gonna go ahead and shimmy that little knot down just a little bit. And let's go ahead and bring it back up to me. Hey y'all. All right, so we're a little bit more even, shimmying just a touch more. Good. All right, much better. Maybe just a touch more. Doesn't hurt. And know that you can always trim this at the end so that it's all super even, but now I've got this nice little floof of a yarn ball. And what I'm gonna do now is move so the longer piece of yarn is coming forward again. So let's give you that overhead view of what's going on. All right, longer piece of yarn is here. I've got my almost done tassel. I'm gonna go ahead and smooth it out. I might need to finger comb it just a little bit. And we're gonna lay it so about 1/3 or 25% of the tassel is above the yarn, and that's with your little tag end. And then so that you have about 2/3 of it down here underneath that long piece of yarn. And we're gonna go ahead and tie the long piece of yarn in a double knot right here. 1 and 2. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pick this up and I'm gonna hold, so I've got my 2 knotted ends. I'm gonna hold one of them out of the way while I use the other one, and I'm gonna wrap it around. Then this one, I'm gonna wrap in the opposite direction. And we're gonna go ahead and knot one more time right here. And this one I'm gonna pull a little tight so that it slips beneath what we just wound around our tassel. We're gonna give that another knot right here. Good, so you just double knotted it. And then my scissors that I had kept kind of handy are gonna come in, and that one I'm gonna trim right away. Cool, you'll go ahead and set that out of the way. All right, moving backwards. Sorry if I make any of you dizzy today. Making myself dizzy over here. And now you have a tassel. So you'll notice there's some longer ends here. I might go ahead and trim that right up. So I'm gonna make sure it's nice and even. Do it so that I can cut with my right hand so it's nice and even. And I'm gonna go ahead and trim some of those long ends out of the way. Good, much better. So now it's a nice even tassel. It looks nice and easy and nice and clean. Let's go ahead and move on to what you're gonna hang those tassels on. So I have that dowel rod that I tossed out of the way, so give me a moment. All right, dowel rod and that nice thin white string. You can use any color string and any color yarn you want to. And I would go ahead and tie a nice piece. So I'm going to tie it to one end and the other. Great news, I already did that with this one. So I've got it nice and tied. The next thing you're going to want to do is to take that white string and you're going to string it, and this is a tricky part. So you can string it right through the very top of that tassel, or you can tie it onto this long piece. And again, I already did that because it can take a little bit of time and I didn't want to take too much of your time this morning. So I already tied one on here. And then all I would do is, I've got a couple spare tassels behind me. I would find the kind of configuration that I want. So maybe I want them to hang in a V formation or a triangle, upside down triangle. I would arrange them so that I can tie this white string at the length that I want it. I made it extra long, which is really helpful so that I can tie it either really short or really long, and then I can always trim. I can't always add on. So I wanted to make sure that was nice and long so that I can tie it however I want to onto here. And then you hang as many as you want to. Again, you chose your color of yarn, so you could hang 5 of them and do 1, 2, a longer one, and then 2 more going up. So that would give you your nice little V formation. Or you could hang a bunch of them on there. You could hang them all at the same length. You can really do whatever you want to, and then you make yourself a wall hanging. So I'm gonna, to save you all time, I'm gonna go ahead and post the picture of what the final product looks like in the comments. And then I'm gonna show you one more quick way that you can make another wall hanging using these little, you can either use these and you can make them keychains. You might have a perfect spot on your wall for them, but let's go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my book again and set my tassels out of the way. Let's go ahead and we'll stick with green so that it's nice and easy. So similar to what you were just doing with the tassels, you're gonna do that same thing and you're gonna wind your yarn around your book again. So open side down. You're gonna wind it probably about 10 times. So we're gonna keep it pretty simple. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, hanging it from this side. Let's go ahead and trim it. Boop. And we're gonna go ahead and trim it on the bottom again too. So trimming those. So you've got a much smaller set of yarn hairs here. And you're gonna go ahead and grab your metal ring, any kind of ring that you wanna use. And we're gonna just do a nice little hitch. So let me show you what that looks like, and I'll do it a couple times so you can see it. So I've got them exactly in half here. I'm gonna go ahead and put 2 fingers through that top half and set my ring so that actually the bottom is here. I'm then gonna take the bottom set and I'm pinching it here, you see? And we're gonna loop it through and pull down. Good, and you see how it just hangs off of there nicely. I might have to adjust a little. You see one of those little rogue strings that has a little bump at the top. That's okay. You'll get it nice and smooth. You can tuck it down, do what you can to make it work. But then what you would do is you just attach a couple of those. You could choose a couple different colors. So I've got some FHF colors here. So I might do an orange grouping next and maybe a blue on the other side. And then I have this cute little hanging. If you could hang this from the mirror in your car. You could hang it in your room, your locker, whatever that looks like for you. But this is a nice little version, or if you are looking to do a nice big version, you can do a bunch of those and just do them really long. And this is on a very big metal ring. And then I usually have this hanging right behind me in my living room. So it's gonna go back to hanging up here in a minute. But again, it's super simple. This took probably about 10 to 15 minutes total, and then you just trim up the bottom. So this is that nice V shape again. And you have yourself a wall hanging. So those are 2 quick yarn crafts that you can do. So you make tassels and you hang them from any shape. To do this with some outdoorsy materials, you could hang it from a stick that you find. It's great if you find one that's already on the ground. So you can hang those tassels from that stick, or you can hang them from a dowel, or really any shape that you have at home. So you just have to find something that's a nice long place for them to hang from. So that dowel rod does a really good job of it. So I'll show you a couple of the, hi Alex. So I'll show you the final result in the comments below. But if you have any questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the comments, and I will make sure to answer them throughout today. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Alexa, and I will see you all later.